machine, it cuts to within 1/100 of an inch tolerance. So it does whatever we tell it to do. Back in the day, people used a draw knife to cut wood, and the last 40 years, people have been using door planers to cut foam, and now we use a computer-driven machine to cut the foam. So it's not like you can have a monkey come in and use the machine. It's there's 30, 35 years or whatever experience I have that's going into what I do on the computer, which tells the machine what to do. So it just gives me that much more control over every board. The beautiful thing about the DSD Digital Surf Designs SurfCAD software is that I don't necessarily have to scan an existing board. I can create a virtual board just out of the numbers in my head, and there's a variety of tools in the software that I can manipulate the curves with to get the board look just right. It's as good as any tool I've ever seen for duplicating a board. I mean, the shaping part, there needs to be some finish work. We can actually control the settings on the machine to completely finish a board if we want to. It's just how much time do we want the board on the machine. Any of the urethane foams we cut on the machine, we're cutting EPS on it, expanded polystyrene, and we're cutting extruded polystyrene as well. That's like the XTR blanks. I've been using the software now for about 3 years. We've had our own machine for about 3 years, and it's an incredible tool. I have a starting point to work with the guys on that's very repeatable, and then also it's taught me to understand the shapes a lot more, because I can look at every point on the interior of the board. Before, we used to sort of think about rocker and width and thickness at certain points, like a foot back from the nose or a foot up from the tail, and maybe pay attention to 30 or 40 points. And with computer software, I can look at points anywhere I want on the board. And there's also curve analysis tools where I can look at the curves from a different perspective than I ever have. So I've learned a lot more about my own boards looking at it through the software. Computers made me a better hand shaper. So on the rare occasion when I do hand shape a board all the way through, I'm seeing it through different eyes now, because I've retrained my eyes through the computer shapes. I mean, we've used several types of machines over the years. In the late 80s, mid 80s, late 80s, I had a profiling machine built by Stan Paskunis. And what it did is it replicated top and bottom curves, but it didn't outline or turn rails. And then in the early 90s, we were one of the first of a handful of brands to get on board with KKL, and we did use KKL for a while. And what KKL does is you shape a master, and the board is scanned, and then you can ask to have it expanded or shrunk a little bit, like you would on a copy machine, a Xerox machine, but we couldn't really manipulate any of the curves. But that was a good tool for consistency in production, and it was sort of an outsource. It wasn't something that we really had a lot of control over. And then when I realized that there was sort of a next generation machine that we could put in our own factory, and that the software was pretty easy to use and extremely versatile, that's when I invested in the DSD and the SurfCAD. And the other good thing about this machine is there's a huge network. I mean, there's probably 45 of these machines around the world now, and I would imagine in excess of 100, 150 people using the software.